Alright, something I've had on my mind for years. I just had it on my mind again because of Canada Day a couple weeks ago, and at Christmas it always kind of like flares up. I want to talk about city budgets, provincial budgets, but I mean, it's mostly a municipality thing or a city budget thing. Um, I feel like there's a lot of waste. I think that anyone could probably say how they'd want to spend the budget in a more productive way or whatever else, right? So I'm no different, but I just get frustrated and just like super annoyed. And anyway, I okay. So I mentioned Canada Day and I mentioned Christmas. So Canada Day, we've got fireworks, right? We've got thousands of dollars are spending on fireworks every year for Canada Day. Every once in a while, there's some for other stuff too, but I mean, the city is spending this money on doing these on making these fireworks for Canada Day. So throw aside the whole Canada Day argument in itself, of whether we should be celebrating or not. That's a whole different video. But the fact that we're celebrating this day with spending thousands of city dollars on these fireworks is like ridiculous. I wish I can get the exact numbers because it's a lot, and for a bigger city, it might reach into like tens of thousands, and depending on what they want to do and how elaborate and intricate they want these fireworks to be, and how long they want them to last, and how many people they're paying to run the show and everything else, technicians and things like that. So it just becomes this thing of like, why are we doing this? Do we really need this? No, we don't need this. And there's a lot of luxuries that we don't need, and maybe we should talk about those too, right? Like, but there's a lot of things that we don't need that we could be using that money to pump into community services and other things, whether it's even on the provincial level. I mentioned Christmas because that's another one where I'm like, oh my goodness, why do we put up all these special magical Christmas lights? I think this is going to be a twofold thing. So one, the city always puts up like extra Christmas decorations with extra lights on like all these different lampposts in like the downtown area and other areas like Mary McGrath and Lethbridge, or like 8th Street in Saskatoon or whatever. They just put up all this extra effort into decorating and using electricity with like these special lights and stuff. And it's again like, this is a luxury that we don't need. Like, can we all just get on board and say we don't need this extra stuff? Like, we're just celebrating the season with some other stuff, or like we could cut the budget in like by 75% and like not waste electricity or something. Like, we could have decorations that you can see, during the day. But we've got this whole thing with tradition. Like, oh, okay, we built this tradition, and now I can just imagine the uproar if one of the cities was like, you know what, we're not doing this thing this year, or like, we're not going to have the Festival of Trees, or we're not going to have the Festival of Lights, or whatever it is, or we're just not going to decorate. The city decided to put its money to benefit, the homeless community, or to benefit community services for you and your children, or disabled peoples, or the elderly, or whatever it is, right? It's just like we just wanted more money in the budget to help these other things that are more of like necessity, or like public transportation subsidies or something, rather than pump thousands of dollars into Christmas lights and fireworks and like things like that. That's like, hey, these are celebratory, weird, traditional things that we do that we don't need at all. Everyone's gonna live just fine without it. People are gonna flip out and get upset about it and be just like, oh no, but they can't do that so that we could like. I just don't understand. Like, it goes back to this whole thing of taxes too. Like, yeah, we should be paying more taxes in some regards so we can have better services. Obviously, there's this whole thing of like, we want to make sure that our government is actually processing the money correctly and putting the money into the budget the right way, the way we want to see it or whatever. But some places get taxed like way higher than us, and they benefit greatly from it. Places in like the Netherlands and things like that, right? Like, that's kind of been proven. But I mean, it also becomes, there's a lot of trust, and it's good government budgeting, right? So just because we put more money in doesn't mean they're going to spend it in a good way. I get that, but we should have a relationship where we kind of consider the fact that, yes, paying more taxes can be a very good thing. But also just like, why don't we just cut some stuff out? So let's say we don't pay anything more. We just cut some stuff out. We don't expect our cities to like fire off a bunch of explosives into the sky that end up being colorful and pretty. Just like, you could easily put that money elsewhere that would benefit the community as a whole. by benefiting even a section of it that may be underprivileged, we're benefiting the city as a whole. Like there's no argument there. It's like when people like don't have kids and they don't want to like my tax dollars are going to schools, like public schools. Yeah, we're educating people you're going to be living with. We're educating the future or whatever it is, right? Like it's these things benefit the whole community, the whole city, province, etc. I mentioned like it could be on a provincial level because I mean I think that honestly it should be on a national level or even a Western culture level or whatever because the U.S. obviously does things like this too and other places do, like in Europe and stuff, and it's just like, why are we spending this gross amount of money on these crazy luxuries? To me, like lights and explosives in the sky are luxuries that we just don't need. And like I said, I'm sure someone's going to bring up like, John, we don't need this either, we don't need that either. And like I said, maybe you're right. Like, there's a lot of things that we don't need that maybe I like as a luxury. This is just one of those things that I'm like, nobody needs this. We don't need this. I go as far, and I've had this conversation with at least one person this past winter. I go as far as saying, you know what? The city shouldn't even allow anyone to have lights. Let's not allow anyone to have lights. Let's, like, if we talk about this on an environmental scale and using electricity and, like, carbon footprints and all this stuff, nobody gets Christmas lights. That's it. I was thinking outdoor decorations, like Christmas tree inside, whatever, I guess. I don't know, that could sap a lot of energy too, but it's like, hey, if you want to have Christmas lights on your house, like, I think it should just be nobody. Okay, settle down. Nobody gets to do it. Nobody gets to do lights for decorations. You can have all the other decorations you want that aren't using electricity, but no lights, no animatronics, moving snowman and stuff. Like, just have daylight decorations. Just do that. I think that it's just got to go across the board that no one can do it because eventually someone's going to be like, oh, well, what if I just pay the city more money and I pay a tax in order to have it? And then everyone else is going to complain and this is going to be a big thing. And like that might work kind of if like you pay a crazy high tax and then that money goes towards covering your carbon footprint or whatever you want to call it. But I just think, like, yeah, let's go that far and just have it on a nationwide thing. It's like the city doesn't do it and residents don't do it, and that should be the new tradition. Why can't the new tradition be being environmentally conscious or being less wasteful? Again, I'm sure people are going to bring up some luxuries that I would be upset about if they were gone, but I don't know. I can't think of any right now that are, like, extreme luxuries. Like, I mean, obviously I'm enjoying electricity right now, right? Like, but there's just a line that I think we could do without. Like, this is okay, here's the thing. This is we've become accustomed to this tradition of like living indoors and having electricity and running water. I enjoy those customs. I'm not saying that we take us back to like hunting and gathering because whatever, that's more efficient and more environmentally friendly or what, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying we regress back there, but why can't we get rid of some of these things that don't actually like improve our quality of life? Like, people will get over it. If we never did fireworks, there'd be no difference. Whereas it's like, oh, if I was living in a tent outside right now, it'd be a little different than living inside this house. Or like running water or having electricity. Like, those things make this difference in a quality of life the way that I don't see fireworks and Christmas lights and decor outside giving someone a legitimate better quality of life. Like, your city and you can still celebrate the holidays and still have decorations. Let's just stop using as much electricity. For some reason, I'm really stuck on that point. But I mean, I don't think the city should be pumping, like crazy amounts of money into holidays and like decor and like putting up like Christmas ornaments on lampposts and spending all, like, I just don't see it as beneficial. It's You could talk about like keeping up morale or something, or just like engaging with your citizens in a celebratory manner. We can find ways to do that without spending this much money. I guarantee it. It's ridiculous. Yeah, there's more examples I could use. Those are the two ones I'm stuck on right now: fireworks and Christmas lights. But the amount of money to buy those decorations and then maintain them with electricity and all the stuff, it's just so incredibly wasteful. I just can't imagine, like, on a city scale, on a provincial scale, on a country scale, on a national scale, how much change we could affect in a positive way if we got rid of those luxuries and pumped them into services. It would be amazing. And imagine if that was like a global thing. Why can't we unite on this thing? Being like, you know what? Like it's just so ridiculous that some people will get upset about this. That's the other thing. Like, there's no argument. Like, I feel like this is really objective, being like, we would benefit greater as a society as a whole if we put this money elsewhere to improve our communities through helping people that are underprivileged or whatever, right? Like, there's so many things, like, and we would benefit globally as well. If, like, imagine the world as a whole stops using 50% of the electricity and we still maintain, like, everything we've got going on here with lights and running water and video games and TVs and all that stuff. No one's taking, well, other than, I guess, decorating your house with Christmas lights outside. But, like, no one's taking away your personal freedoms or whatever. But even if we didn't do the thing about being like, okay, yeah, citizens can decorate whatever they want, I still think I think we should go that far and be like, no, you can't just put up Christmas lights and suck all this, like, electricity. And even if you're paying the bill, like, that's just not a thing we do as a culture anymore. I think we should go that far. But even if we didn't, on a city level, that would still affect this greater whole too. The city has no obligation to do that for you, for me, for anybody. Like, they don't have an obligation to do it. It's just a stupid thing that's tradition without purpose. Anyway, that's the rant. I just really, yeah, the fact that it ruffles feathers blows my mind. Like I said, objectively, I think it's just like, yeah, how do you argue that point? How do you argue that money could go better elsewhere? Like, I don't think you can. Like, I really don't. Like, these tradition without, like, this greater purpose, it's just dumb. Like, like, how articulate, John? But I mean, it's like, faith without works is dead. That's how I always think about tradition without any critical thinking involved. It's like, yeah, we keep doing this thing. Why? Just because we've always done it, it doesn't really do anything good for us. And people don't think it does any bad, but you can reallocate that money so much better. Guaranteed. Anyway, have at it in the comments section. See you on another time.